everybody. Hope you guys are all doing good. Welcome to episode 9 already in my Enduro Riding Series. So what I thought we'd talk about, I did a episode already on how to get over logs, but I've had a lot of questions and emails and stuff like that on the, how they call it, either the double blip or the punch through technique. Kind of means the same thing, sort of. But I thought I'd explain, I'd break it down, kind of show you what the bike's doing a little bit better, which should help you transfer. Your body has to speak to the bike. Like, you got to kind of transfer what you want the bike to do. So I think if you understand what the bike's doing, it might help, apply the technique a little bit better. So yeah, let's get started.
So I'm going to try and do it reasonably slow here, and then I'll break it down. It's kind of hard to break it down for you guys. It's kind of hard to go slow as well. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is push down and compress my suspension. And then I use the clutch and throttle simultaneously to get the first punch or blip of the throttle. That's going to send the front end up. So I hope that comes through on the camera. It's hard to capture. It's overcast as well today, so we've had an insane amount of smoke the last little while here. This is actually the first clear day despite it's overcast. I'll take it. So listen to the throttle and what I'm doing here. So I just analyzed it myself quickly in my head, and what I'm doing is the first blip gets the front end into a wheelie, I guess you'd say, so that you hit that log in the correct spot. The second one gives you your momentum to get over the log. So have a listen again. And then I do a third one on the ground because I've got enduro suspension. This bike's super duper soft, which I love. But you always crack it hard on your landings. That's an old motocross trick, and what it does, it draws the suspension out. Rather than just going like that, it kind of draws it out like an airplane and keeps you just a lot smoother landing. So that'd be the Heddletown triple blip. I guess I just invented that one. See, it lands really nice and smooth that way. I hope that makes a bit of sense. I'm going to slow-mo some of those clips down so you can see, you can look in the dirt here where I'm doing the first blip. So right about there, I'm compressing the suspension, and at the same time I'm giving it clutch throttle, like I'm dropping the clutch and hitting the gas. That's your first blip, and that's going to drive your front tire in to get the punch. And then when the front tire pops into the air, see, I always aim for about 3/4 of the way up the obstacle, whether it's a rock, whatever, just be above the halfway point. So when your front end drives up in the air, that's gonna cause, it drives up in the air, then the rear end is gonna counteract that. So that's your double blip. Brop, brop, that's the idea. Or at least that's how I'm using it anyways. Some other pros might argue, but really at the end of the day, if you do it safely and you get over the obstacle, I say you're doing pretty good. So I got that camera mounted on that little funny mount I got right in the middle of my visor on my roof. So the idea, and I'm going to be standing, so I'm not sure if I'm going to capture this, but the idea is that you can see my throttle and my clutch hands and what I'm doing. We'll give it a go and see what it looks like. Okay, so keeping an eye on my throttle and clutch, I'll probably slow it down pretty quick here. Oh, I'm trying to go real smooth so it doesn't fall off. I should also mention on this, I've had a couple questions and comments about on my hill climb, my short approach hill climb video I did. The first part of this, I guess you'd call it like before the log, you can see my burnout marks, I guess you want to call it, but that's just it. It shouldn't be a burnout mark. You shouldn't really spin much at all, and that's kind of what I want to explain to you guys. Like, if my hand is the bike, when you're doing the first part of the punch, you know, the first blip, if you want to call it that, or cracking the throttle initially, when that sends your front end up into the air, that also pushes your butt, you know, the rear end of the bike down into the ground. So that's kind of like when you're doing steep, short approach hills and hill climbs, and, you know, like, I mean, from here to the tree, like real short runways, when you push down, or in this case, we're going over the log, so that's weighting the rear end of the bike. That's giving you your traction to get the forward momentum to get over the obstacle. So same with those short, steep hills. When I push the suspension down kind of just before the hill, that's kind of driving the rear tire into the ground, so you don't get too much of this spinning. And I should mention, you can also control that with your clutch hand. So, you know, I've got a pretty new tire, so I got, you know, wicked traction, so I can more or less dump the clutch pretty much all the way out, and I get minimal tire spin. But you should kind of, you know, use your own feel. Try a few smaller logs and just let the clutch out with a good crack of the throttle and see how much traction you get. You know, like when I was cracking it over this one, clearing these 3 logs, you know, you could see there's no wheel spin whatsoever, and I was in first gear, so that's because I had good traction. You know, there's a bit of grass. You got to be able to read the terrain too. If it was wet out, I'd have excellent traction. So yeah, just use your own discretion on the throttle, clutch, and how much you weight the rear end. That's kind of just how all that works. I should mention too, you guys, having the confidence to do this kind of stuff goes a long ways. You know, speaking for myself, I was a professional freestyle motocross rider for many years. Actually, one of the first guys doing it. And, you know, I was used to flying 150 feet through the air, hanging onto the bike with one hand. So jumping logs and stuff like that really isn't a big deal to me. But that's my point about confidence, is you should know your limits. I always try and stress to people, start on a smaller one, like pick something in an open field that's real comfortable, and just get used to it and slowly increase in size. I see a ton of people on Instagram and YouTube, you know, they're going for these massive obstacles and they're not making it, and their technique's going backwards, not forwards. I guess it's good to get a boost of confidence too, so don't get me wrong, you should push your levels. You know, you got to know your limit, and to know your limit, you got to push it a little bit, but don't get to the point where you discourage yourself, because really you're not advancing. You got to advance small. You know the old saying, you gotta, what is it, crawl before you can, or walk before you run, whatever the saying is, you know what I'm talking about. So what I'm doing for the other one here, I'll show you guys. See, there's a big row of logs there. There's 3 of them, medium size, I guess you'd say. And to me, that looks like a dirt double jump, or even a tabletop. You just want to make sure that front tire clears the far one, and you're good. And that's just first gear, and you could pretty much use a good hard single blip, or as I would say, crack the throttle real hard, and then just land on that second one as a double jump, I guess you could say. I'm trying to get out and do all these lesson videos for you guys, and I'm trying to be the guy that does the demonstrations and the explanation. I'm hoping that that's going to make my difference on my YouTube channel to get the message across on what I want to show. I'm going to try and show it myself, so I hope that makes a difference on my YouTube channel, because there's not a lot of guys doing that. We got the old selfie thing going here. How many of you guys noticed I got the neck brace on? That's a new thing for me. I actually tried it last summer, and I banged my head on a tree pretty good last summer. I was only going about walking speed, like I was just on the bike, and I kind of turned to look at the trail, and there was an overhead one, and I banged my head and
jacked my neck around pretty good. So got me to thinking I should give it a try. I have mixed opinions about it. If you guys have any comments or suggestions about the neck brace, drop them below, because I'm sure it's going to help you in a crash, but it feels a little awkward, so that can throw it off too. So it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So that's going to do it for episode 9, you guys. I hope that helps some of you guys and gals out. Definitely drop some comments below, and any other future videos, you know, any ideas you might have, let me know in the comments. Episode 10's coming up, and that's kind of my 10th anniversary one, or 10th episode I should say, I guess. So yeah, drop some comments below, hit the old like button and the subscribe button if you guys aren't subscribed. Check my description out below, that's the little drop down arrow. You can see the picture right here. It's got all my links to my social media and Patreon if anyone wants to buy me a beer or chip in $1 or so. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.